Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I call Mark Patterson.
Madam Speaker, I rise to offer New Zealand First support to this Canterbury Earthquake Insurance Tribunal bill, and I note today is actually the 8th anniversary of the September 2010 quake. My probably overriding sentiment around this bill is I think it's probably 3 years too late. There is a lot of people who have been put under enormous stress through this process through no fault of their own, and actually probably in many cases through no fault of the system. This is an unprecedented scale of event for our nation, and mistakes were always going to be made. The process were always going to be difficult as we responded to this. So I have, in my contributions on various earthquake-related bills, steered away from the politics because I think, for the reasons I've just given, I think the scale and the unprecedented nature, certainly in modern times, of this event means that our response was always going to be less than perfect. But for the 2,500, 3,000 people, how many it is that we have still unresolved, I think we really need to do what we can for them and elevate matters, and I think this bill does exactly that. The 2% of claims that are unresolved, although I would add that there, as of June the 30th, there's been 142,451 domestic insurance claims have been made, and payments of a total of $10.7 billion, as well as 26,275 commercial insurance claims totalling to date $10.3 billion. So that just shows you the scale of this particular event. I might say I was in Christchurch as a hard-working list MP for New Zealand First based in the South Island. I was there working last week, and I must say for the first time that I have been there in recent times, I left feeling encouraged. Christchurch actually is starting to look, in that central city that has looked like a bomb site, and I think most of us that aren't there all the time, when we go back, are generally pretty shocked at the state of Christchurch. But it does seem like the modern new buildings and the buildings that are coming up and under construction are now outnumbering the parking lots and the building sites essentially there. So I think we are seeing finally, after these 6 or 7 years since the end of the quakes, that there is a genuine revival. And most of the time when I go from Christchurch, I leave with a bit of a heavy heart. But this time I left feeling some hope and embracing the future, as opposed to maybe dwelling too much on the past. But of course, for these 2,000 or 3,000 people, I've heard various quotes. Ours is 2,500 claims. I've heard the previous speaker say it could be as many as 3,500. Their reality has not moved on. Just in recent times, we've had a report on stuff of Roy and Jeanette Walker. Roy is 94, Jeanette is 81, so he's done pretty well for himself there, Roy. But after those events, they are still trying to work through this process at their age, and the stress of the events has taken significant control on their health, and to the point where doctors have basically ordered them into a rest home. Roy's health has not improved, and it has broken down, arguing with insurance, who seem to be making it as difficult as possible. The doctor said it is beyond us now. I am just exhausted. And it's for Roy and Jeanette, for people like them, that we stand here today and bring this bill to the House. And it is a sensible bill. It does recalibrate the power imbalance that we do have between insurers and claimants, and it does allow the homeowners to initiate this process, because I think that is important. I'm actually involved in another bill before the House at the moment, the Farm Debt Mediation Bill, so I actually have been getting quite a bit of feedback through that angle on the process of mediation when businesses, in this case, are under stress, and I have been given quite an insight actually on the pressures and the stresses and the power imbalances that do apply in these situations where you have incredibly well-resourced multinational companies in many cases going up against individuals who may be quite limited in their understanding or ability to respond in kind. So there's this huge power imbalance. So this mediation process is a really, really important step. And as I say, I think we're well too late in getting to this point. There's people there like Roy and Jeanette and all those other people that will be at their wits' end. We could not even imagine, I think, individually how hard it would be to be battling large corporations like that, or the government in some cases through EQC, for that period of time. So these measures will be welcomed, I'm sure, by those individuals. Of course, the key to this is that the Tribunal actually has some teeth, and I think that its ability to set timeframes and also to appoint independent experts when necessary, and you would have to think that many of these cases are very complex. They will have gone through a number of phases already, but the ability, so this Tribunal does need to have some teeth. It does need to be able to rattle some cages and have some powers to make progress happen. We're budgeted for it, the $6.5 million operating budget and the $1.5 million that is in the set-up costs, and I think that is, that the foresight that went into that budget round. As Minister Little said in his opening address, this was something that was supported by the three parties in this government benches. We recognise the importance of this and we have provisioned it. The fact that no on-sold properties can be included in this, I think that's thoroughly sensible. I think if you've bought a property, you will have gone in as buyer beware, and it was up to you to have sorted through or recognised what the obligations would have been in that sense. So I think this is to sort out the issues for the genuinely bogged down people who have been put in this position through no fault of their own. Of course, the Tribunal is enforceable, but its powers are in line with the District Court and is open to appeal. So I think that is important. It has been mentioned that may bog down the process, but I think that's after the event. I think there will be far more disputes resolved before it gets to that point than would be the contrary. And I again refer to the work I'm doing with the Farm Debt Mediation Bill and the work that they have done in Australia. There has...
It's not relevant.
Well, it is part of the bill because it's absolutely the same principle, Madam Speaker. The experience there in a mediation sense has been that it has taken a lot of that court time away. So I do note there has been a little bit of criticism about the lack of consultation, but of course that's what a select committee process is for. It has been well signalled, as pointed out. There has been a budget allocation made to it, so it's been perfectly transparent what we're looking at doing. And as I say, that has been supported by all parties on this side of the House. So without further ado, Madam Speaker, New Zealand First is thoroughly behind this eminently sensible measure. In conclusion, I would reiterate that I think it is too late. There is too many people that have been through too much unnecessarily. We should have put this relatively cost-effective or very cost-effective measure in place before we got to this point. And I commend Minister Little, Minister Woods, of course, who has been so active in the space for bringing this bill forward, and New Zealand First absolutely commend it to the House. Thank you.
I'll call the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Madam Speaker, there are two essential questions